What's up, everyone? My name is Sam. Thanks so much for joining my Hatha Yoga practice today. Today's practice is going to be focused on longevity in the body and mind. So physically, we'll be looking at joint health, specifically in the hips and shoulders, as well as spinal health. And we'll also be working toward relieving stress, finding inner peace, connectedness, and harmony with all living things. If you want to bring a mantra to today's practice, there are a couple of traditional options available to you. One is, may all beings everywhere be happy and free. That's the English translation of the mantra for longevity. Another one is Om Namah Shivaya. I bow to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva in Hinduism is kind of the dictator of health, life, longevity, peace. So if you want to use either of those mantras, feel free. Otherwise, pick one that speaks to you, that helps you get grounded in your practice. And we are going to get started when you're ready in a traditional child's pose in the middle of the mat. And I'll meet you there. All right, so I'm going to come into a traditional child's pose to start, but you can also come into an extended child's pose with the knees wide if you want to. In terms of the physical body, traditional child's pose is really great for stretching through the back, posterior chain. An extended child's pose will help you get deeper into the hips. So find whatever version feels right for you today. And this is where we will drop in. So checking in with the pious bodies, the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual bodies. Or just settling in and noticing how you feel. When we're talking about longevity, there's a lot of components that determine that. And statistically, your spiritual connectedness is a big part of that. But in the physical body, we want to focus on the health of the joints, especially the hips, shoulders, and spine. So we'll be doing that. Another big component of longevity is managing your stress, working toward inner peace or less anxiety, less stress, working toward connectedness with all things. You might think about a mantra that you want to incorporate throughout your practice, something that grounds you. Something that helps you connect with those ideas of inner peace, stress management, letting go, finding connection, and nurturing the body. There are a couple of traditional mantras for longevity coming from yoga and Hinduism. The English translation for one of those mantras is, may everything in existence be happy and free. That mantra is meant to frame the connectedness of all things. Another traditional mantra is Om Namah Shivaya, which means I bow to Lord Shiva. who in Hinduism manages things like health and longevity, peace and connectedness. Anyway, as you settle in, take inventory, what you're feeling and where, without judgment, just recognizing your starting point today. Maybe adopting a mantra that works for you. You also want to start connecting with the depth of your breath. Remembering that the breath is your friend, a very important tool in yoga, but also symbolizes that pranayama, that life force, that energy that animates you, that you are in relationship with. Take this time just to root down through the earth. Feel supported by the earth, by your mat. And just start to create this safe space for yourself, for your practice. Take a few more moments just to turn inward and find stillness. I will be quiet while you do that. If you're still working to find stillness in the mind or the body, keep working toward that. If you're ready to incorporate some movement, you might start by gently opening the eyes. Maybe bringing the palms under the shoulders to gently press into the fingertips and lift your forehead or your chest from the mat. We'll come all the way up to just on the knees. So if you were in extended child's pose, let's bring the knees and the shins close together. And we'll just start with a little spinal twist. So I'm going to start by twisting to the left, leading with my left hand, swimming that around behind me, planting my fingertips on the mat, and maybe bringing my right hand to the outside edge of my left knee, just to pull that left shoulder back, maybe looking over the left shoulder, releasing that potential energy in the spine. Reconnecting with the breath, we'll swing through to the other side, nice and slow, like you're moving through water. This time planting the right fingertips behind you, bringing the left hand to the outside edge of the right thigh, pulling that right shoulder back and maybe looking over the right shoulder. Just checking in here. Gently release that when you're ready. And before we come into our cat-cow and spinal mobility stuff, we'll just stretch through the wrists a little bit. So there's a lot of ways to do that, but basically when you're checking in with any joint, you just want to move that joint through its full range of motion. So you might just start by drawing little circles with the fists. Just checking that out, noticing what you feel, what you hear, if anything. You might also bring palms together at the chest and just rotate the fingers away from the chest and back up toward the ceiling, toward the chest. And again, you're just adapting this for your own body, your own wrists, but you're just checking in with the range of motion there to notice if you hear anything, if you feel anything sticking, if you feel any discomfort. You can also interlace the fingertips and press the palms away from the body, stretching through the forearms, the palms. But feel free to move organically through the wrists there, just to check in for a moment. When you feel good about it, we'll come forward onto all fours for your tabletop pose. That's palms under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Neutral spine, resting on the tops of the feet here. And before we move through cat-cow and those variations, you can continue stretching through the wrists just by rooting down through the palms, spreading the fingertips out and away from one another so they're radiating outward. And then just rotating through the wrists. So I'm just gonna kind of draw circles with my chest, pressing through the wrists, applying pressure in different directions, and just noticing what you feel, if anything, what you hear, if anything. Maybe reversing those circles if it feels good. And then we're going to do something similar with the shoulders here. So find that neutral tabletop position again with palms under the shoulders. And all we're going to do here is just drop down, keeping the elbows at full extension, kind of letting the spine fall below the shoulders, and then pressing that back up, arching through the upper back. I'm just going to move through that a couple of times just to notice, again, if you hear anything, if you feel anything. Also just to move your shoulders in ways that maybe it doesn't often, or they don't often move. And that is one of the keys to keeping longevity in the joints or healthy joints. Just checking in periodically, breaking up that myofascia that builds up from stagnation or repetitive movement. And then let's sink our weight into the left palm, just lift the right one up off the mat, reaching the fingertips forward and away from the body. So my elbow is at full extension, arm is straight ahead basically. And when you find that balance, we'll just swim the arm behind you, again moving organically through that range of motion. So feel free to move through this shoulder in any way that is available to you. And again, just noticing anything you hear or feel. You might hear some clicks, might feel some things moving in there, that's okay. Just investigating, being curious about your own range of motion. When you feel good about that, we'll bring it back through, plant that palm again under the right shoulder. We'll do the same thing on the left. Just extending that left palm forward, reaching away from the body, radiating through the fingers, And maybe flipping it toward the back, swinging that arm slowly down behind you or around behind you. Just checking in there a bit. Again, noticing what you hear, what you feel. And then maybe checking in other ranges of motion with that shoulder. So just moving through some circles, kind of being curious, exploring, noticing if there's any sticking points, investigating those. Otherwise, just putting your mind's eye in the shoulder, noticing what you feel, if anything, and where. And when you feel good about it, you can bring that palm back to the mat. We'll do the same thing with the spine. So we're going to start with our traditional cat-cow. You know what to do. Sync up with the breath. On your inhale, you'll drop the belly, drop the low ribs, tilt the pelvis, lift the gaze. And on your exhale, you'll press into the palms, tops of the feet, arching through the upper back. Syncing up with your breath, moving at your own pace. And then you feel free to incorporate any other easy organic movement here. So you can bend into the elbows and draw circles with the ribs, just lowering to the mat and then pressing up. Imagining you're on the inside of a barrel or a tube. And trying to touch all sides with your ribs. Notice what you feel there, what you might hear. Feel free to explore, be curious. Listen to the sensations of the body without judgment, without additional stress or pressure. Just letting that go and allowing your body to move in any way that it wants to. You can continue with that as long as you'd like. When you feel good about it, you can come back to that neutral tabletop spine. We're going to walk the hands slightly forward or away from the hips. I'm going to bring my right hand somewhere near the midline of the mat, under my chest area or under my face basically. And I'm going to drag my left fingertips along the inside edge of that right arm and up toward the ceiling. Just checking in with your range of motion there. Notice. And then we'll guide those left fingertips under the right arm. We'll come down to the back of the left arm, back of the left shoulder, bringing that left ear toward the mat with your right hand somewhere under your right shoulder. And we'll slide that right hand away from the body, checking in here through the shoulders and upper back. Connecting with the breath. You can make it as passive or as active as you want to. So relax everything here. Or walk those fingertips a little further from the body. Pull that left shoulder into its socket. Whatever feels right. Remember that this is your practice, so make it your own. Adjust as needed. When you feel good about it, we'll gently slide that right palm back under the right shoulder to press up. A little extension at the elbow. We'll slide that left hand outward and back up toward the ceiling, checking in again with that range of motion in your chest. And then bringing that left hand back down to the mat, somewhere under your left shoulder. We'll set up again for the same thing on the second side. So I walk my hands just a little bit further away from the body for this. Planting the left hand under the chest or under your face. We'll drag the right fingertips along the inside edge of the left arm and open up that right arm, right hand toward the ceiling. Check in with your hips here. Notice if you're being pulled very far to the right. Try to find squareness there. Notice your range of motion without judgment. And then we'll guide those right fingers under the left arm, coming down onto the back of the right arm, right shoulder, right ear comes to the mat. Beginning with the left palm under the left shoulder, we'll slide that away from the body. And again, make this as active or as passive as you want. So you can just relax here. Again, finding squareness in the hips. You might be pulled to the left. Press your right hip over to the right. Notice what you feel when you do that. You might engage that right shoulder by just pulling it into the right socket. Or you might just make it nice and passive, connecting with the breath and just breathing here. Letting go of stress. Already starting the process of working toward longevity and good health. You might remember your mantra here or reconnect with the breath. And when you feel ready, we'll gently bend into that left elbow to bring the left palm back under the left shoulder and slowly press up. Again, sliding that right hand out and back up toward the ceiling. Noticing if anything's different and what you feel and where. You can float that right hand back down to the mat when you're ready. And we'll get deep into the shoulders here by coming into a puppy pose. So I'm going to walk my hands away from the body, rotate my hands slightly outward. I'm at full extension at both elbows as I lower my forehead and chest toward the mat. Again, this is your practice, so make this pose as active or as passive as you'd like. Just relax through the belly. Melt down into the shoulders. Notice what you feel there. Or you can press the armpits down toward the mat and engage the lower abdominals to flatten through the back. Notice what you feel. Take as much time as you'd like in this pose, checking in with that inner voice, your inner dialogue, finding peace, finding stillness. If you can't find stillness, notice what's distracting you. When you're ready, you can slide the palms under the shoulders to gently press back up to all fours. And take your time getting there. From here, we're going to set up for a 90-90, which we've done in the past. We're going to open up both knees to 90 degrees. I'm going to start with my right shin in front for the sake of this video and so you can see me. And so what I'm going to do here is bring my right knee forward, open up that right knee to about 90 degrees with your shin parallel to that short edge of the mat. Same thing with the second knee, or your other knee. You're going to open that up to 90 degrees. That left thigh will be in line with the left hip here. 90 degrees at the hips and ankles. And we're going to make this dynamic, so we're going to incorporate some movement through this stretch, and we're just going to roll from one side to the other like we've done in the past. So starting on that right side, you might gently fold forward over that right shin, just slowly noticing what's going on and where, what you feel and where. And then we'll gently press back up and roll to the second side to do the same thing. So I'm going to bring my left hand behind me. I'm just going to lift that left knee and then my right, shifting over to the opposite side so that that left shin is now parallel to the short edge of the mat, and my right hip, right thigh is in line with my right hip. Once you get there, same thing, just gently folding forward over that left shin, noticing what you feel and where. And pressing back up, we'll continue moving through each side. So go ahead and shift back to that right shin in front. Gently folding forward over that. Just not bouncing or forcing any shape. You're just honoring wherever your body is right now. This is your little gentle warm-up for more hip stuff later in the practice. You can also incorporate this stretch after a workout. In that case, it would be more static and less dynamic, where you would just be holding this position for an extended period. We always do dynamic movement at the beginning of exercise or movement, just to get the body warmed up and ready. And we save static stretching for the end of movement. So just checking in with both hips. You're working on internal and external rotation in the hips here. That's what we're doing. The hips have just a really complex range of motion. They can move in a lot of different ways, so it's important that we move them in the ways that they're able, while they're able to. All right, let's move through this a couple more times, just noticing, checking in. One side might be very different from the other, that's okay. Just kind of taking inventory of that and noticing for later. We'll go through a couple more iterations. And then next time you're folding over that right shin, just stay there. I'll meet you there. We'll move from there into our first downward dog of the day. So you can get there by swinging that left foot around, coming into a comfortable cross-legged seat, and then rolling forward onto the palms. Or you can get there any way that you get there. Just move carefully, move mindfully, honor your body, listen to it. Coming onto the toes, pressing through all 10 toes, pressing into the balls of the feet, rotating the palms slightly away from one another before we fully extend through the knees, sending the hips up high toward the ceiling. Feel free to bend generously into the knees. If your heels are not touching the ground, that's totally okay. I'm looking more for a flat back situation here. And then you might bend into both knees to just pedal through the feet, checking in again with the hips. Take your time there. Dropping the right hip down toward the mat, then the left. Stretching through the hamstrings, just noticing. When you feel good about that, go ahead and find stillness again in that downward dog. both mental and physical stillness. From there, we'll plant that left foot somewhere near the midline of the mat and slide the right toes all the way down to the edge of the mat and then up toward the ceiling for three-legged dog. Reaching, challenging yourself, stretching through the hips. Let's lift our gaze to between the palms, bend into that right knee, and bring that right foot all the way up and through, planting it between the palms and lowering that back knee. So we're just coming into our low lunge. You might walk the left toes back a little bit further. Go ahead and adjust here. And then there's a lot of variation in this lunge. There's a lot of ways to incorporate other poses, other stretches, and other movement. For now, let's just sink down into that low lunge, noticing what you feel in the right side hip and the left side hip. So just putting your mind's eye there, describing to yourself what you feel and where, being as precise as you can. Sink down a little bit deeper. Remind your body that it's okay to relax. Take your time here, and when you're ready, I'm going to come up onto the fingertips and I'm going to just shift my weight back slightly so that I can hinge at the hips and come to an upright position. And then you can sink forward a little bit more if that feels good, whatever's working for your hips today. Let's release the hands so they're just hanging down next to you. Let the fingers kind of dangle, and then we'll guide them up and toward one another overhead, really taking up space and moving mindfully as you do. When you get your hands overhead, we'll use the right hand to grab that left wrist, pull it up toward the ceiling very gently, and then we're gonna lean over to the right, pressing that left hip over to the left side of the mat. Stretching through the side body, challenging the hips. Release that when you're ready, keeping the hands overhead. As we melt them down toward the mat, we're going to turn toward the right. So bringing that left hand to the outside edge of the right knee, opening up that right palm behind you. And once again, just finding a little spinal twist. When you feel good about it, release the hands, come back through center. We'll drop the hands back down to frame that right foot. Maybe lean forward again in that low lunge, just checking in one more time. And then of course we'll do the same thing on the second side. So we'll start by curling the left toes under, finding connection to the mat with all 5 of those toes. Lifting the left knee off the mat and sending the right foot back for plank. We can slowly lower to the belly here for chaturanga and upward dog or cobra. And then send the hips back up for downward dog. Once you get there, we can set up to do the same thing on the second side. This time we'll plant the right foot somewhere near the midline of the mat. We're going to drag those left toes down the mat and then all the way up toward the ceiling, eventually coming into your 3-legged dog. Lift the gaze to between the palms, bend into that left knee, and bring that left foot all the way up and through to be framed by both hands. We'll lower that right knee down to the mat, come onto the top of that right foot. And again, just check in here. So you might walk the right toes back away from the body a little bit more. You might lean forward to compress the front of that left hip. Just remember, if you're moving here, you're just not bouncing. You're moving mindfully. I would encourage you just to find stillness and sink deep into that for a moment. Maybe reconnecting with your mantra, managing your stress here, which begins with managing your inner voice. And then when you feel ready, you might shift back on that hip a little bit. Come onto the fingertips to hinge at the hips and come upward. From here, we'll stretch through the side body by first releasing the fingertips toward the floor, maybe shaking them out a little bit. And then we'll arch the hands up and overhead, bringing the palms toward one another, taking your time, taking up space, and grabbing that right wrist with the left hand. Continue to pull that up toward the ceiling, getting really long. And then we'll just bend over to the left, pushing that right hip toward the right edge of the mat. Notice what you feel and where without getting overwhelmed. And gently come back up. And as we release those hands, we're going to turn toward the left side, bringing the right hand to the outside edge of the left knee. Left palm just opens up behind you, maybe looking over that left shoulder. For a little spinal twist. Good, release that when you're ready. We'll come back down to frame that left foot. Take another second there just to check in with that compression in the left hip. And then we'll curl the right toes under, pressing into all 5 toes, lifting that right knee. We'll send that left foot back for plank and follow by a vinyasa. So you can slowly lower to the belly or halfway, coming onto the tops of the feet and raising up for upward facing dog or cobra. And then we'll meet back in our downward dog. Hips up high and back, bringing the heels somewhere toward the floor, but it's okay if they don't make it. Just bend deeply into the knees if you need to. Take your time here. When you're ready, we'll plant that left foot again. Slide that right foot all the way up toward the ceiling, 3-legged dog. Bend into that right knee, bring that right foot all the way up and through one more time. And from here, we're gonna come into a high lunge. So you're gonna keep that back knee lifted. We'll hinge at the hips. Keep that nice 90-degree angle in that right knee. Sink down a little deeper into that. Building strength there. And we're gonna bring the hands behind the back, palms together. Go ahead and interlace your fingertips. And what we're gonna do here is press the fingertips down toward the mat. So really pulling the shoulders back, chest open. And then we'll hinge at the hips to just look under that right knee. So you can go ahead and melt down toward that right thigh, raising the hands toward the ceiling and looking underneath that right thigh. Checking in, noticing what you feel. You can come back up to that high lunge. Release that bind. Frame that right foot one more time and we'll vinyasa. So you can pivot on the back foot, send that right foot back for plank. Slowly lower all the way to the belly and press up for cobra. Or lower halfway for chaturanga. Come onto the tops of the feet and extend through the elbows for upward facing dog. Good, we'll do the same thing on the second side by curling the toes back under, sending the hips up high toward the ceiling or the sky, coming back into downward dog. Take a moment here. Building strength in the shoulders, catching your breath. And we'll do the same thing on the second side. This time planting that right foot somewhere near the midline of the mat. Sliding the left toes down and all the way up toward the ceiling. Bending into that left knee, bringing that left foot all the way up and through. And this time keeping that right knee lifted. We'll once again hinge at the hips, keeping that generous bend in the left knee, somewhere near 90 degrees, sinking down into that. We'll go ahead and bring the hands behind the back, interlacing the fingers. Pull the fist down toward the mat. Sink deep into that left knee, and then we'll hinge at the hips, folding forward, bringing arms up toward the ceiling, finding your balance, and looking underneath the left thigh. Take your time here. If you fall out of it, just get right back in, no big deal. And when you feel ready, we'll gently release that. Coming back to frame that left foot one more time. Send it back for plank. Move through your vinyasa. Slowly lowering to the belly or halfway for chaturanga to upward dog or cobra. Melting it back down. We'll meet one more time in downward dog. So curling the toes under, pressing up for plank, sending the hips up high toward the ceiling. So from here we're going to come into pigeon pose, which is really great for the hips. It's also great for building mental stamina, for quieting the mind, building discipline. So we'll start by bringing that right foot somewhere near the midline of the mat. Once again, we'll slide that left foot up toward the ceiling for three-legged dog. This time we'll bend into the left knee and we'll lead with the left knee to bring it all the way up and through. Walking the right toes back, right leg stays at full extension. Finding the upright version of this pose before we fold. So if you need a block or a prop, feel free to grab one for under your forehead. Feel free to also adjust that degree of flexion in the left knee. So if this is way too intense, or if you're falling over to the left side of the mat, just bring that left heel closer in toward the body. And if you feel like you can't connect with the sensations there, you can move that left heel away from the body and open that degree of flexion at the knee. Either way, find your nice, strong, stable foundation before we fold. And once you get there, we'll melt forward, coming down onto your block or prop or stacked fists or stacked palms. Making sure that you're square through the hips, not melting over to the left. And we'll settle in here. Reconnect with your mantra. Reconnect with the breath. Finding that stillness once again. Noticing what you feel and where. Noticing without judgment. Maybe articulating that to yourself. Working on that mind-muscle connection, as we call it in the Western world. Take your time here. Notice if you get distracted Start to let go of that. Remind your body it's okay to relax. This is your practice. You've created this space for yourself. Connect with a few more deep cycles of breath. You might gently bat the eyes open if you have them closed. Start to reconnect with the body and your proprioception. Let's bring the fingertips to the mat just under the shoulders and gently extend through the elbows to come back up to that seated version of pigeon. Checking in that you're still nice and square, nice and stable through the hips. And then we'll prepare to do the same thing on the second side as always. So I'm going to shift my weight into my palms. I'm going to curl the right toes under, find a connection with all 5 toes to the mat. And then I'll lift my right knee, kind of lift all of my hips off the mat. We can extend that left leg back for plank. Go ahead and vinyasa by slowly lowering to the belly or halfway to chaturanga and upward facing dog. And then we'll meet in downward dog to get set up for the second side. Remember that one side might be very different from the other. In the case of the hips, mine are very asymmetrical, so don't be alarmed if that's the case. Just meet your body where it is today. We're going to start by planting that left foot somewhere near the midline of the mat. Dragging the right toes up for 3-legged dog one more time. Shifting the gaze to between the palms, leading with that right knee. We'll bring that up and through. Coming down onto the hips, maybe walking that left foot back and away from the body. Checking in with the squareness of the hips, making sure you're not slouching over to the right side here. If you are, you might bring that right heel closer to the body to make this pose more manageable for you. And once you find that strong foundation, you can hinge at the hips to fold forward, coming onto stacked fists, or stacked palms, or your block, or a pillow, whatever works for you today. Once you get there, go ahead and turn inward. Let go of what you don't need right now. We're not focusing on perfection, we're focusing on building strength and supple joints for healthy aging and longevity. If you're using the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, this is a good time to repeat that. I bow to you, Lord Shiva. So you're kind of bowing here. Feel free to incorporate any mantra that helps you connect with the practice, the themes of the practice, physical body, or stress relief. Reconnect with the breath and allow yourself to let go of anything you don't need here. Take as much time as you need on this side. I would encourage you to find stillness. If you're having issue with that, notice what's distracting you and give yourself permission to let go. Notice if you're getting overwhelmed by the sensations of the body. And if you are, try to put your mind's eye right where you feel those sensations. And explain to yourself what you're feeling. Then let that go. If your eyes are closed, you might gently open them here. Bring your awareness back to the fingertips. Bring the fingertips and the palms back to the mat, somewhere under the shoulders. Press into the mat, extending through the elbows, coming back up to the seated version of this pose, maybe checking in there again, especially if it's challenging for you. From here, we're going to bend into the left knee. You can lean slightly over to the right for this transition. And we'll bring that left heel all the way around for a comfortable cross-legged seat. From here, we're going to roll to the back. Let's do a couple of cool down exercises, cool down poses, and then we'll move into Shavasana. So as you're coming to your back, we're going to move through a couple of movements that we typically do for warm-up. I would encourage you to do these daily, just for hip health. We're going to start by bringing the palms or the fingertips to the front of the knees, just letting the feet hang down toward the mat. Feel free to grab a pillow for under your head or neck if it feels good. And then from here, we're going to draw circles with the knees, beginning by compressing the hips and pulling the hands toward the body. And then moving the hands away from one another, keeping the big toes touching. So checking in with your range of motion, then bringing the knees back together, and then back toward the chest, etc., etc. So we're slowly drawing circles with the knees. Again, just lubricating the joints, allowing them to move through their full range of motion. You can reverse those circles if it feels good. Noticing what you feel, what you might hear. And then to conclude, I'm going to bring my knees in toward my chest and just wrap my arms around them to find that compression through the front of the hip. It's also a nice stretch through the low back. You can rock gently side to side if you want to incorporate more of that. And then finally, I'm going to bring my hands to the outside edges of my feet from here and open up through the knees for happy baby. Bringing the knees down to the outside edges of the ribs. And again, maybe rocking gently left to right. It's another great way to check in with the hips, either before or after your practice or any time during the day. Feel free to take any other easy organic movement that's calling to you here. And then when you're ready, extend fully through the knees, letting the feet just fall apart. You can open up the palms toward the ceiling and land here in your corpse pose or Shavasana. We'll close the practice with a final meditation and a little prayer. And I would encourage you, if you settle into your meditative practice, just to stay there as long as is feasible for you. So you might start by just reconnecting with some nice deep inhales and exhales. Maybe remembering what brought you here today. Maybe reflecting again or repeating your mantra. Maybe just quieting the mind and allowing your body to relax. So just to summarize from today's practice, if longevity is your goal, it's really important to take care of the joints, especially the hips and shoulders. We do that just by moving the joints through their full ranges of motion, sometimes incorporating pressure or tension through body weight. Spinal health is also important, so checking in with the range of motion there, stretching through the back, through the torso, finding your twists, all of those things. And then finally, managing stress, managing anxiety, and feeling that spiritual connectedness are all important components of longevity. So feel free to repeat this practice daily or weekly or how often you need, or to incorporate just your favorite poses from the practice to begin with. Before I close this practice, I'd like to recognize that I am leading this practice from unceded Monongahela and Osage territories. I would encourage you to find out whose indigenous lands you're practicing from and how you can support their ongoing struggles for liberation. I'm going to bring my palms together to rest gently at the space between the eyebrows or at the forehead or at the third eye. Feel free to join me if it feels right. Otherwise, you can just stay in corpse pose or rest the hands gently on the body. We want to recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice coming from the subcontinent of India and Indian culture. So we recognize and honor that cultural heritage without appropriation. We also recognize that yoga today has many functions for many communities around the world. I thank you so much for being part of my community today. I hope you got something you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.